Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be part 2 of the intake manifold plenum build for the supercharged 4-liter Jeep Grand Cherokee. I finally got my parts in from Send-Cut Send. I ordered it last Sunday, might have been Monday, and this is the following Sunday, so they're pretty quick. We're just going to open this up, see what everything looks like, and find out if I measured everything right. I've already thought of one oversight, but we'll see if it actually becomes a problem. They almost always send a piece of candy. There it is. Looks alright. The first piece I'm really worried about is this guy. So I'll show you how this came, and then we'll see if it fits the intake. Well, this is how it all came in. So you got the upper, lower, this piece I need to mark and bend. Got to break it work. This is only 1/8 inch thick, so I could break it here, but there's a big fancy one at work, so I'll use that. This is the piece that's going to weld onto there, and this is the piece that's going to bolt to that everything else will weld to form the plenum. So my biggest concern is whether I measured this right. I measured everything out with a tape measure and a pair of calipers as close as I could. So my plan was to cross my fingers and hope I got it close enough. And then I don't mind doing a little bit of file work on the runners to keep this stuff straight. But from here, I'll do some measuring and some tweaks so that the next time this should just drop right on, hopefully. I'm sure there may be some core shifters, some things that move around, little variances from manifold to manifold, but I want to get it as close to right as possible so you do less work. But that's really not too bad. My oversight was this right here. I thought about it. Afterward, that bolt hole is going to run right into that rib. So on the next manifold, or the next one, I'll probably move that. Maybe put one here, or just move this one hole up. That's probably what I'll do. Instead of being in this corner, I'll just go right there, which I don't see any problem with that. That will avoid that rib. But I'm going to sit here and look at this thing for a minute, mark some things with a Sharpie, and all in all, it's really not far off. I think I just need to knock off some of the little high spots like this guy here. That one, and those little guys, and it may fall right on. So I'll get a file and we'll try that real quick. Slight change of plan. I don't want to sit there forever with the file, so I'm going to use this a little bit, and I'm going to go in between all these things. This one, as the plate goes down, it gets further away, don't need to touch it. This one, since it's tapering in, I need to square off that edge on every one of those edges. I've also got to move this wall where I left it a little thick. I've got to move it back just a little bit. So we're going to do that in a time lapse and move forward. After a little more trimming, we're sitting flush. So next time I'm going to open these all up 25 thousandths all the way around. Just enough to give a little more. I did bevel this side because of the angle of the runner. At least the company I had this lasered at, or Sencut Sen, I don't think you can have them. They're just doing straight burns. If I could have them angle cut that'd be great, but that's probably not going to happen. So we'll just make it a little bigger. It's just going to be a little more gap to fill, but that's okay. So I'm going to weld this up later. I'll weld this up on it from this side, and I'll move that hole over later once I get it all on and make sure this is going to be happy. I only ordered one set of these plates just for this reason. I knew I was going to miss things. But I'm going to get this cleaned up and get it tacked on, and then we can kind of mock it up and see what it's going to look like. Got it tacked together, but after thinking about it, this is not how I'm going to weld it together, but it's going to work for mock-up for now, because I just want to keep moving forward. I'll go over how I ended up welding it at a later time. Well, at least right now, my plan is to get a small router, a handheld one, and get like a 1/8 inch corner bit and go through and bevel this side, so that for the future manifolds, I don't have to cut down the walls of the manifold at all. Leave it as thick as you can and take it out of the plate. So then when I weld it, it's not big and raised, it's sunk in as much as it can, so that when I surface it, one, it won't take so much to surface, and two, the weld will still be plenty thick. Got this thing bolted on because I noticed that, of course, this is just a piece of 3/8 sheet metal. It has a little bit of warpage from where they've lasered it and probably shipping and things. So I've got the two bolted together to hopefully keep it as flat as possible. So I haven't welded any more of the inside yet. It's just got those tacks that I then cut down, because in order to keep it as straight as possible, I've bolted it together, and now I've got to weld the back side, hopefully to keep it all from doing too much warping. So I'll weld the back side, and then I'll take the plate off and weld the insides. I didn't have any 1/8 inch tungsten, so I had to order some, and when I tried to do it with 1/16, it just melted the tungsten back and just really made a mess. But it's been probably about 4 or 5 days since I messed with it last. Finally got my tungstens in, so I'm going to get back to work. We'll get all these welded up, unbolt the plate, and then weld the inside. And then we can put, well, I can't put the plenum together without this being done. So I'm going to have to port this. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on it. But I'll have to port this and then get this radius the way I want before I put the box on, because I won't be able to get to it after that. Either way, let's get to welding. It's all welded up on this side. The back side, I did sandblast this thing before I welded it, but I only blasted where I was going to weld. I didn't worry too much about anything else. Went ahead and welded this side up off camera. I didn't end up beveling anything. I just set the welder on kill and really pushed it in there, so it didn't build up too much. Now with my little Eastwood, the duty cycle's not that high, so I do one and go play video games and wait for it to cool down. Not just for the sake of the machine, but if you're, I don't really wear welding gloves that much like I should, but if you keep on going, you won't be able to hold the torch. So you do 1 or 2 of these, set that thing down, come back in 20 minutes, or it will burn your ass. But it turned out alright. So I also ran out of filler. I made just enough. I had enough little pieces lying around to finish the last weld. So I don't have anything for the plenum right now. I'll have some tomorrow. I'll get it from work. But plan right now, get this in the mill, get this close to flat as possible so that I can put that plate on. And I don't think I have any blue dye, any Dykem. I'll probably just use a Sharpie, mark it, and take a pick and scribe everything. And then I will port match it to that as close as possible. You'd seen where the walls weren't, where that is probably just a little on the big side for this. So I would rather it have a ledge than bust through a wall. So we'll get it as close as we can. Of course, the next intake I do, or if I do another one of these for a friend or something, I will make that a little smaller. I'll make this side a little bigger, because where I had to cut into the runner, it's going to be a little thin. So opening that up to try and match that would be foolish. But I don't think that little step's going to care. So let's get after it. Got this all marked up with Sharpie because I couldn't find the Dykem. Just gonna put another bolt in here just to help line everything up. We got one in each corner. Now we'll give it this one. And we'll describe this thing out. Now that I've sharpened it and marked it, it actually looks like this is going to turn out just fine as far as the sizing of those ports on the entry. There's not that much work to do. There's some spots where I got to take like an 1/8, but I don't think I'm going to bust through there by any means. So I think this is actually going to be just fine. So since I don't plan on moving this piece, I'm going to try to figure out how to get this in the mill so I can radius all the entries. And I'm not going to port this in this video. I'll do that off camera by myself. But let's figure out how to get that radiused. Well, I figured out how to radius this. It was pretty violent, and it's square enough. I used the router bit and took the bearing off and just tried to keep it as square as I could in the mill. But that'll work. Now I'll just port match wherever I marked it with Sharpie and the scribe. And I think I'm going to sand this up just a little bit, and then I'll start welding the plenum together. I'm just going to tack it to the base plate because I plan on taking it back off and doing some stitches on the inside where I can too. And also in case I need to change anything, I don't want to cut that many welds. Here it is, tacked together and kind of sitting on the engine. Cruise power steering just fine, no issues. That is tight. I'm also not worried about it though. I'd have to see if it'll fit on something else. The factory lines may be worse, but since those are modified, it is really close to the firewall. I never took that piece. I thought about shortening this, I never did. I probably will on the next one, but I got a 1/4 inch and I'll just knock this lip over. That'll solve that problem. If I ever do a transfer case drop, it's going to hit pretty hard, but I don't plan on doing that. I'm going to stretch this thing a bit, so as it gets a little more lift, I'm going to move the axle, rear axle back, front axle forward, which will help reduce drive shaft angle. So I'm not worried about having to do a transfer case drop. Problem I've already figured out with my 4.7 throttle body swap is even after I change this linkage over to the 4-liter one, it's probably still going to hit. So I don't know how much. If I had another 1/8 of an inch, it would have worked. But my plan is just to order a throttle body spacer for a 4.7. That'll get me by. Knowing this now, once I get the 4-liter lever on here, I'll know exactly how much room you need. And then I'll either make this plate thicker or just plan on using a spacer of some sort. But for now, that goes there. This is probably pretty much going to be it for this video. I've been pretty busy waiting on stuff. I'll end up putting more bungs and end up porting this manifold and everything else throughout this next upcoming week, and hopefully next weekend, Saturday or Sunday, I'll have another video of it fully completed, welded and running, and then we can see what it does. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hopefully next weekend this thing will be running again.